To balance. Hi!
Hi!
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me here. I know I've met some of you when we did the sign up what feels like a year ago, but that was that last month?
September.
September was last month, okay. What year is it? I can't remember. I'm so glad though that we still are here in the midst of fall because this accessories presentation is about how to accessorize for fall. But hopefully what you learned today will be for all seasons. So my name is Lauren Friedman. I am actually from Ann Arbor, Michigan originally. I moved back here about a year and a half ago again. So I am an Ann Arbor resident and also really interested in the Women's City Club and all the programming that you had. I wanted to sign up for all the classes that you guys had. But in the meantime, I will be talking today about how accessories are a huge part of our lives and how they tell a story about who we are as humans and individuals, and also who we are as humans as a human history, a human collective. So my goal with this presentation is 3 parts. First is to give you a little bit of background about why accessories are so special, give you a little history about it that I never knew about accessories. Then I'm going to show you a very exclusive behind-the-scenes look of the making in this book. And then lastly, I'm going to show you how you can use accessories that you probably already own in your closet in new ways that you might not have thought of already. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And so my 3rd book, 50 Ways to Wear Accessories, came out in August. My first book was 50 Ways to Wear a Scarf, which some of you may already own. My 2nd book was 50 Ways to Wear Denim. And this is my 3rd book, and I will tell you that this book was far and away not only the most fun, but also the most challenging, which I think you will see pretty quickly on. Oh, it works. Okay, great. So yes, these are my 3 books here. Those are my hands. Those are my jewelry. Actually, you can see that this bracelet I have on right now, so just a fun little catch there. Okay. So as I began to study accessories, and what I do first before I actually begin the creation process is I do a lot of research for these books. And when I began to study accessories, I came to realize that they are much more profound than I originally thought them to be. And maybe it's because they're not necessary. You know, they're not a pair of pants, they're not a jacket that you have to wear to keep you warm. They become almost this magical bridge between us and like another world somehow. And when it comes to accessories, let's say that you're in a foreign country and you're wearing a cool scarf or a great pair of sunglasses, and you meet someone who doesn't speak the same language as you, but they like your really cool scarf or your great sunglasses. Suddenly you both speak the same language, the language of appreciation. And we live in such a divided time that I think identifying and embracing these things which can bring us together is a really powerful thing, and accessories are one of those bridges. So in the span of me working on this book, I used to live in Washington, D.C., and when I began accessories, I was still living in Washington, D.C. And in one afternoon, I made a new friend because we complimented one another's scarves taking the elevator down to the metro. I learned a new perspective about something that I thought I knew everything about because we started talking about our watches. This is with a different person than the person in the elevator. And then a 3rd person in the span of this afternoon, we ended up talking about God because he complimented my shoes, which you see pictured here. And as this was happening in one afternoon, I was like, thank you, universe, for helping me write the introduction to my book here. Like, this is really, really helpful for me. So this language of appreciation and how it connects us is a very, very powerful thing about accessories. 2, accessories are philosophically intriguing. And when I say that, what I mean is that they aren't, as I said, a necessary item for us to wear. And as long as we humans have walked this earth, we've been accessorizing ourselves. We've been wearing amulets for protection. We've been wearing totems and lucky charms to feel lucky. And not only are accessories a bridge between us as humans, but they are a bridge between us and the divine, or us and some other greater power. And we had to ask ourselves, why is it that accessories are so magical like this? Why is it that I always have to wear something of my grandmother's whenever I'm doing a book event? Why is it that I have to wear my nicest pocketbook to go to a job interview? Why is it that we wear a ring on our third finger to indicate that we're married? What is it about accessories that is so important in telling this story about who we are inside? Next about accessories is the fact that they can tell a story about human history through their reinvention. So this image on the right side is from my website called My Closet and Sketches, which is a style website that I started in 2010. And I started it because my grandmother, we were moving her to assisted living, so her very robust closet could not fit in her new digs. And so I, as the only granddaughter, was tasked with inheriting many of these wonderful pieces, and she was a total clothes horse. And so on this illustration here, there is my grandma's jacket, my grandmother's top, my grandmother's pants, my grandmother's bag, and shoe clips from my grandmother, which are not really something you see very often anymore, but which I absolutely love for just changing something up. And all of these items are being worn by me in a completely different way than how my grandmother would have worn them. I think. Maybe not. I mean, she was really stylish, so I guess that means that I'm saying I'm stylish as well. But when we talk about the reinvention of trends and of styles as they recycle, for instance, some of you may notice the trend that some younger people are wearing of a choker, which was a sort of a recyclement of the 1990s era choker, which Claire and I definitely wore in middle school. But when we talk about the 90s era choker, we could be talking about the 1490s trend of wearing a choker, which just so beautifully illustrates the fact that many of the accessories we wear today are just versions of something we've been wearing for a really, really long time, which I just think is so cool. And now I want to pause for a second with this idea about how powerful and impactful our history as humans can be told through accessories, to give you a brief history of the handbag. Because I think of any other accessory that we use, the handbag tells an incredibly detailed story about how women were valued in society and how our social, sexual, financial, all of our rights can be told through the story of this one thing that we carry. So to start off with, like I said, as long as we've been walking the earth as humans, we've been accessorizing, and as long as we've been walking the earth as humans, we have been carrying purses, we've been carrying pouches. And most of them were made from animal skin, and when we get to the Greek and Roman period, the pouch takes on a really distinct significance. So on the left, that's a Roman coin, and it pictures the Roman goddess of fertility, Veritas, and in her hand she has a purse, which is filled with seeds, which I feel like I don't really need to explain more about the fertility thing there. And in Roman wedding rituals, a purse would be gifted that was filled with seeds and coins, indicating that a woman's worth at that time was tied up in the purse strings of her ability to reproduce, her ability to raise and have children. And on the right, we see another image of Cupid holding a purse filled with coins next to another symbol of fertility and abundance, the horn of plenty. So not only did purses in Greek and Roman times signify women's sort of sexuality, her fertility, it also signified someone's place in society. So the smaller a person's pouch was, the higher they were in society, because if they were carrying a small pouch or a small purse, that meant that they had someone working below them who was doing all of the heavy lifting, right? So I think you could still even see this today if you see a picture of a celebrity carrying only a cell phone walking through an airport. What that says is, I have someone else working for me who does all the heavy lifting. And as we move, I'm really jumping forward through history now, but these pouches that men and women carried, they were at first hung from the belt or girdle, and they swung outside the body. So they swung next to the body. And this was a problem with thieves, I think, pretty quickly on. I think soon after someone got their pouch, just zapped right off from shoop, and someone ran off, they thought, maybe there's a safer way of carrying my belongings. And so the pouch goes into the body. It goes into the closeness of being held near us in our clothes, and this is what we think of today as the pocket. This is the pocket.
Oh.
That's how, I know, which is like, pockets. I love them in my, the connection between how they got here to there is actually a really amazing one. But this connotation of the purse representing a woman's fertility, her gender, her sexuality, it still really remains. And in fact, I think it's bolstered by the fact that now pockets are so body adjacent. There's still this connection between sex and the purse. And so if we look at this very disturbing cartoon, these images are mostly from one book that I used for my research, which is called The Handbag and Illustrated History, if anyone wants to do more research on this. But this man, at the bottom you can see, this is a lady's wearing, indispensables means purse here. And so this man is helping a woman find her lost purse by reaching up her skirts. And this connection of her sexuality and her objects and her belongings is very tastefully and savorily showed here. And here's another really great quote to illustrate this. One pickpocket boasted in 1751, "My chief dexterity was in robbing the ladies. There is a peculiar delicacy required in whipping one's hand up a lady's petticoats and carrying off her pockets." It gives me the heebie-jeebies literally every time that I read it. Because think about it, it's not now just about a purse that is a woman's fertility and that connection with her, but now her purse is accessed through heavy folds of fabric until you find the opening and then access the pocket. And men and women's pockets are different at this time, just as they are today. This disparity still exists today. Men's pockets were sewed into their pants. They were nice and big. They held a lot of things. A woman's pockets were attached to a string, and then they were tied around her waist, and then she wore her skirt on top of it. So think about how inconvenient that is. Just you had to lip up your skirt, then find a separate opening, and it was tiny, and it didn't really hold much. It's just, I don't really see it being very convenient for any of us. And so as this pocket wearing is worn, I guess is one way of saying that, women start to, and now I'm really jumping ahead here. This is just a history of the purse, not mankind, so we're going to jump around a little bit. And around the same time that people began to look back to the Greek and Roman period for the inspiration of the Great Enlightenment, women's dress fashions also starts to look back to this time. So they're wearing long diaphanous muslin draped dresses which, hug the curves and show off the breasts, and perhaps most scandalously for the time, they show the outline of a woman's pockets. And it's hard for us, I think, to even picture this now, but the idea of someone being so disturbed to see the outline of a woman's pockets and see the outline maybe of what is in them without actually knowing their contents, this is the first example of the VPL. The visible panty line is something maybe you have heard of. This is the visible pocket line. And in reaction to this, women start to carry a purse again. They start to move away from these inside pockets into what we call a reticule. And this reticule is actually the first example of the underwear as outerwear trend. And imagine thinking about the pockets being something as underwear. A woman carrying this down the street for the first time, this was incredibly shocking to people. One writer said that for a woman to be seen carrying a reticule, it was as shocking as if she went out in public and lifted up her skirts and showed off her underwear. which is really hard for us to understand, I think, today. But it begs the question, what did society think about women at this time if the things that they carried were so shocking that it was just too disturbing for society? And I think what it says is that women at this time were to be seen but not understood, to be out for display without being heard. And these reticules were made out of satin. They were very heavily embroidered with lots of beautiful detail. I mean, if you can go into the reticule Google image for hours and find so many great examples. And what was inside these reticules? Well, there was rouge, maybe some powder, maybe a fan, maybe some calling cards. I am talking about the middle class here, so women who had the ability to go to people's houses in the middle of the day with their calling cards. But there wasn't anything resembling money. There was no financial autonomy for women at this time. So the right of what we could carry was really shocking to the society at large. And here's another really good example. This woman's outfit illustrates a much larger trend in accessories at the time, which is that not only is she carrying this reticule, but she has a really big hat on with a giant bow, a neck ruff that looks very uncomfortable, a bone stay corset, and the tiniest, most uncomfortable looking shoes I've ever seen. And even now, seeing this picture, it actually makes me rethink how I carry my purse, because if I carry it in my hand, it means I'm giving up the use of one hand, right? And these fashions at the time were a distinct foil to the masculine archetype. Because at this time now we're talking about the Industrial Revolution, and the spheres between the men and women are becoming increasingly stratified, and the image of a man is that he's at work, he's industrious, he's mobile, he's strong, he's active. And this image is served by a woman who is immobile, who is quiet, who is safe, who is protected at home. And so her fashion, what she wore, they served to uphold these gender norms. So even something like carrying a reticule eliminated the use of one of her hands. It was hard for her to get around. All of these things said, this is how a woman should be in order to serve the image of a man. And this changed with the advent of the train travel, the ability to see and enjoy new things and new ideas. And the bag that went along on this journey is the carpet bag. And the carpet bag, although it was originally created for men, it was perfected by a woman, as many of these things usually are. And what was wonderful about a carpet bag is that you could put your stuff in it, and then if you were on a long overnight trip, you could use it as a blanket. And as boundaries are expanded, as the middle class is able to see and experience new things, this is also around the time that women began to advocate for sexual and social rights for themselves. So the right to vote, the financial autonomy, the right to drive, the right to movement, all of these things. And it isn't actually until the early 20th century that we see the handbag. That is its first appearance. And it's no mistake that the handbag appears at the same time that women began to carry their own money. Because no longer are you reaching under your skirts to find your pocket attached to your waist, or carrying a pocket with a literal string attached to it, which is essentially what a reticule was. Now, you have something that snaps shut, that you can safely keep your money inside. And so you can see all of these women carrying these handbags, but they are noticeably small. And at the time, some of the early suffragettes and the early American feminists used the analogy between a handbag and men's pockets to talk about the disparity between men and women's rights. You simply cannot fit what you can in a handbag that you can in a men's pocket. How is it that we can, live and function and contribute to society if we can't carry our belongings? And one writer actually describes an Amazonian utopia where women rule the world, and we rule the world walking around the earth wearing outfits that are just covered in pockets. Which, like, even today, I'm like, that sounds like a really cute outfit. So this handbag, it continues to be this connection to women. It still has this connotation, this unspoken, probably maybe even not even at the forefront of our consciousness, this attention given to a woman's sexuality, her fertility, her abundance, her contributions to society. Moving forward into the 1950s, a girl metamorphosizes into a woman when she gets her first good handbag. That is the marker of when she becomes a woman. And this photo illustration, I think, does a beautiful job of illustrating these, norms that society expects of women. The proper way to carry a handbag and how your look is completely ruined if you're slouching. And, she doesn't even have any hands free because she's carrying her pocketbook in two hands. Getting now into the 60s, the swinging 60s, we can think about the swinging 60s also relating to the resurgence of the shoulder bag, which swings from the shoulder. And what is so profound about a shoulder bag at this time is that it freed up the hands. Now a woman could be in public and she could dance, she could hug, she could double fist drinks. She could live her life how she wanted to. And it's, again, I don't think a mistake that women carried shoulder bags at the same time they began to enjoy new sexual freedoms. Oh, a little spoiler alert there. So this is why I'm here to say, now you saw the picture before, but the most radical, revolutionary accessory that any of us could wear today is the Fanny Pack. And as you can see, it looks great on all people. And that's one of, I think, the most profound things about a Fanny Pack is that it's gender neutral. And so after hearing this whole history about women in the pocketbook, I think there's something very profound about choosing something that can be worn by anyone. And it also frees up the hand, which I think in this day and age, after that history, makes me appreciate the Fanny Pack even more. So that is just a short history of the handbag, which I hope illustrates how accessories can tell a story of who we are and how we are connected to these objects. So last but not least, what's so great about accessories is that they are spice for the uniform. And I don't mean necessarily a uniform per se, but if you do wear a uniform, more power to you. But I'm talking about just what you wear, what your clothes are that always make you feel comfortable. This is an illustration I did that shows sort of kind of the formula that I rely on. I like a straight leg jean, I like dresses, I like high-waisted skirts, I like jackets, and I like red stripes, white, black, gray, blue. I don't really have to think too much about getting dressed in the morning because I know what looks good on me when it comes to the clothes. The part that I can start to mix it up with is the accessories. That is where we have all this freedom. And most of the accessories that I wear are not things that I bought. They're things maybe that my mother gave to me from my grandmother's closet. I work as a stylist and a closet consultant, so I help people go through their clothes. Sometimes I'll inherit pieces from them. But that's, again, the beauty of these accessories is that something that looks good on my grandmother 70 years ago, I'm wearing on my finger today. And it's just how it's remixed. Check and make sure. All right. So as I was working on this book, I began to go back through my own archives. And I noticed that in every single one of my school photos, I went to Eberway and then Slauson and then Pioneer, every single one of them shows a different parure or set. That's a parure in the middle, a very classic parure. But every single one of these shows a different parure of how I was at that time. So this picture on the left is, I believe, from first grade. I made that beaded necklace. I'm wearing clip-on earrings because I wasn't allowed yet to get my ear pierced. The way that I got my ears pierced was by 4th grade. I played violin and I reached book 4 in my Suzuki book. So my parents, they knew how to bribe me. They knew what was up. So this is, 4th grade when I finally got my ears pierced. I also made that necklace too. Haven't gotten braces yet. And then, I started to go through the pictures, and it actually was more difficult for me to find a picture of me not wearing an accessory than it was for me to find a picture of me. So, this is a very, very, very small example of all of it, but earrings, headbands, necklaces, bracelets. This is a still from a photo, from a video. This is a clutch, that's a pocketbook. I'm doing some different things with the necklace around my head. So as I saw, and this is actually after I finished the book too, so it was kind of nice just to be confirmed, like, oh, I think I have something to say about this because I've been doing a lot of accessorizing through my life. It just was on and on. I was wearing a brooch on my sweatshirt. How I thought of that at the time is beyond me, but I'm really impressed by myself. And so when I was working on this book, I used all of my own clothes and accessories. And so hopefully you'll have some time to look at the book afterwards. But the way that this worked, and this was an entire year of which I did this, I would draw in the morning, and then in the afternoon, it would be, I'm working on how to accessorize animal prints. So I would take all of my animal print items out of my closet, and then just try and make as many outfits as I could, and then take a picture of myself. So, you can see some animal print there. That's a jacket that I believe was from my grandmother's closet. There's just so much. This was a dress that my mom wore in the 1970s. These are my grandmother's pants. It just goes on and on and on and on. This dress I wore to prom my junior year in high school. And it just truly was endless. This is just a very, very small smattering of all of the looks that I put together. So when I say that I really lived and breathed this book, I truly lived and breathed this book. It's really nonstop here. And as you can see, I was always having a really good time. A really, 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 really good time. I never thought that I would actually be showing these pictures to people, so clearly I wasn't thinking about what my face looked in it, but that's neither here nor there. And then, before I had even gotten to that point, I spent a year just looking for inspiration. So walking down the street, seeing a woman who looked interesting, taking pictures on Instagram, going through Pinterest, pulling pages out of magazines and catalogs. And this was from and then I would collate them all. So on my Dropbox folder, I had a folder of thick belts, a folder of thin belts, a folder of how to dress up for, it just went on and on and on. So this was the inspiration images that I used for how to accessorize a loungewear look, which actually turns out to be one of my favorites from the book now. This is a still from the movie The Women, which turned out to be chock full of inspiration for me. And then there I am, very regal, I would say. You might recognize this pose from Rihanna here. The great artist steal. And this became look number 46, the odalisque, how to accessorize loungewear. And you might see a lot of things that you recognize in here from those previous pages. Again, this is for how to accessorize a fur stole or a faux fur stole. So tons, some of these pictures I had for probably 10 years. And so they all came together, and then I also had an entire separate file just of poses. So this was just like, okay, that's a great pose. I know I'm going to use it 3 years from now. So then I used that pose for this, which became, and then this is, all of this other stuff too. I somehow don't have the perfect faux fur stole, so I used a scarf and the hood from my parka from Costco. And these became number 18, the Speakeasy Shimmy, how to wear a faux fur stole. And so you can recognize the pose, the outfit, you might even recognize this scarf, which I use for literally all of these things. So now that you've seen that, I want to show you, with the actual items that I drew in the book, I want to show you some of my favorite ways to wear some of these accessories. And the point about this that I really want to stress is that there is a great power that comes in combining high-low. So what I mean is, you know, a necklace perhaps that you got in a really, really expensive jewelry store in Rome with something that you found at Target. There is no limitation to how you can mix things and find an appreciation with what you already own. So this necklace was, I actually think this was my great-grandmother's. And I've worn it a couple times. But instead of wearing it as a necklace, by simply pulling a piece of ribbon through the back, like so, placing it on the front, and then tying it, now I have a great headpiece. And I think this would be something really wonderful to wear to a wedding, for instance, or just a really, or I don't know, while you're hanging around in the house. But this was a necklace at one point, and now I actually have worn this in public as a headband, and I really, really love how it looks. I actually think I almost like it better like this than I do as a necklace. And hopefully you like how I drew it there too. Now this part, I actually have to say, of all of the tips from the book, this one might be my favorite. And I probably am going to say favorite a couple times, but I really do mean this one is my favorite. And so let's say that you have a necklace, a chain necklace. It's maybe an awkward length. If it has the proper clasp, instead of clasping it to itself, you can find another chain and clasp it to the one opposite. And then I could wear this as one length like this, or I could take it apart and loop it twice. And then you have a really great layered necklace look. And I actually think with some jewelry, I think especially the jewelry on the higher side of the high-low scale, jewelry that has this really sort of dressy feel to it, that maybe you put it on and you think, oh, I'm a little uncomfortable with how dressy this is. By layering necklaces, that is actually a way to sort of bring it back down to earth. I think about getting dressed as an equation, that there are things that are a plus and there are things that are a negative. And so like a really, really fancy pearl necklace, that might be a really big plus, but let's say you wear it with a pair of sweatpants, for instance, that's a negative, and together it comes to, you know, like the formula that you want it to be. So you could do this, and again, I think this is a really wonderful place for being really creative. You can mix metals, you can mix gold and silver. On the left, that's an illustration of a pearl necklace, which is combined with gold and silver necklaces. And in fact, this idea is so new, I didn't even put it in the book, but the necklace that I'm wearing today is actually 3 bracelets. Da, 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 da. Surprise! I'm just going to take it off so I can show you. And you could do this, and that's what is actually so great about bracelets, is their length affords them really well to a certain length of bracelet. This bracelet I wore to homecoming my freshman year. This bracelet was my grandmother's, which I'm pretty sure she bought in Vienna. And this bracelet I bought in college at a vintage seller. It's one of my favorites. So combining, and of course, again, you need to make sure that the clasps are right. You know, the ones that screw you can't do this with, unfortunately. But just by clasping it to another one, you have this wonderful look. You could do it with 3, you could do it with 4, you could do it with 2 to make a shorter look. But having the permission to look at the things that you have in your jewelry box and say, maybe this doesn't have to be worn this way. Let's try it a new way. This has been, of all of the things, one that I actually almost use every day now. I almost always wear 2 necklaces or 3 bracelets or something like this clipped together. It just has been a really, really great way of sort of releasing my inhibitions about how I see my accessories versus those things that sort of sit in my jewelry box unused. And then, oh no, I forgot this one. Shoot, I forgot this. I knew I was forgetting something. So this is a great thing to do with a charm bracelet. And I have a wonderful charm bracelet. Even though I forgot it, we can all just look at this one because this is how it looks. I find charm bracelets very difficult to wear around my wrist. I don't know about you, but they just get caught in everything, and then I'm afraid it's gonna break, and then it's getting dunked in my coffee. It's not great for me. So by wearing a charm bracelet as a necklace, finding a chain that goes on both sides, it actually, I think, is the perfect way to show off your charm bracelets, because when they're on your neck, you can actually see them, and you can bring about a conversation about how this one looks. The last time I gave this presentation, actually, Claire's mom immediately went home and put her charm bracelet on a necklace. And in fact, one thing to say about that too is if you're concerned about the length that you want it to be, you could let it hang like this, or if you wanted it to be shorter, you could fold it back through the loop at the end of the charm bracelet and have it as a double like this so that it's a shorter look instead of a longer look. So that one is just, ooh, come out of here. I'm sorry I forgot that charm bracelet, but I just think it's so sad to have a charm bracelet that just sits inside, you know, your jewelry box and isn't loved and enjoyed. And especially too for charm bracelets that have such a ancestral passing on. You know, I got mine from my mom. I think by wearing it this way, it brings the old in with the new. Now we get into the combination of scarves and jewels together. And the first one on the left, I'm going to use one scarf for all of these. The one on the left is actually a ring. I didn't bring that specific ring, but I brought another ring that was my grandmother's. And let's say you have a ring that's too big. It doesn't fit on any of your fingers. All you need to do is use it as a scarf pendant, so to speak. And if you have the right scarf for length, you could leave it like this. You could bring the scarf up and sort of tie it in the back. You know, there's a lot of potential for playing. But here's such a fun way to find different complements in your closet. I love this scarf so much, and I always think that orange looks really good with turquoise. So here's this turquoise ring that was my grandmother's. Now I have something that sort of really shows off this jewelry to a different effect that makes it really unique. And then on the right, that is this pendant, also from my grandmother. And it was on a necklace, but one tool that I love to keep near my jewels are needle nose pliers. And of course, I'm not gonna do this for my really, really nice stuff. But with the needle nose pliers, all I did was have to take this pendant off the chain that it was on, and then I put a bigger jump ring on it. And now, I'll just pull it through the scarf. And I have the world's coolest necklace. So again, another beautiful, really fun opportunity to find ways to use the scarves that you might not wear with a pendant that you might not wear a lot, that becomes something really special and unique and distinctly yours. And when it comes back again to this story of how accessories can tell a story, maybe there is a really cool story around something that you want to share, that by wearing it in this new way, hopefully we'll get someone to see it and begin that conversation. Now I'm just sort of moving my way down the body. Also, I didn't include this image on here, but I was actually wearing this scarf for the sign-up day, and I was wearing my scarf this way last but not least, we've done the pendant, we've done a ring. If you have a brooch, these are just the best scarf accessories. I think they're made for each other. So, you know, I'm just sort of wrapping this scarf around my neck a few times, and then I'm taking the brooch and just securing it around it, and then maybe I might secure it to my clothes underneath if I don't want it to move around too much. But it's falling around a little bit. But again, just such a wonderful pairing, and so much more than just a scarf. And also, I think that they both sort of make each other better. The scarf is served by the brooch, and the brooch is served by the scarf. Okay, so now we're moving down the body. And along with needle nose pliers, the other tool that I'd love to have is a leather hole punch.
Oh.
Does anyone own one of these? Does anyone have one of these? Maybe you'll have to have a city club group hole punch that you all can borrow from. You could also do this and take it to a cobbler or a leathersmith. But let's say that you have a belt that you only wear around your hips. This is a belt that I got in middle school at the men's section of Old Navy for reference. And you can see that it has a lot of holes in it because although it was something that fit around my hips, by adding more holes, now I have a whole nother belt that fits around my waist. And this belt tie, I think, is a really, really great way to, because, you know, this is always the problem, is that you have this long tail. So when you put on a belt, I'll just do it over my other belt, it's fine. So first you're just going to put it through the hole as such. And then we'll pull it through. And now we have this tail. Can you see me back there? Okay. I think I have to take my belt off, excuse me. We're all friends here. Okay. So we pull it through, we have this extra tail. I'm going to bring it over, up, and behind the belt that's around my waist. And now with this hole that I created, I'm just going to tuck this through here. And this actually, if you look at style stars or celebrity, I mean, a lot of people do their belt like this, and I think that it has a very, very, in the same way that rolling up the cuff of a jacket or taking a pair of pants and rolling up the cuff once adds a very subtle yet important styled look to a look. I think this is a really, really styled look. So this is one that I love and wear all the time. I'm not going to say it's my favorite, but it sure is up there. And now moving along to the rest of the belts. Why not wear two belts at once? So I have this studded belt, and then this is a chain belt. And maybe you're wearing a sheath dress or a dress like this. Why not find two belts that complement each other and wear them together like this? I think it's so subtle, and it's really not that big a deal. You're just wearing two belts. But the look says, I really thought about what I was wearing today, and I'm finding a lot of joy in what I'm wearing because I found two belts that complement each other that look really great together. I'm going to put mine back on. This belt that I'm wearing, by the way, came with a dress that I got at Talbot's. I love Talbot's. They're the best stuff. This chain link belt, again, does anyone have a chain link belt like this? Yeah? So they're so fun to wear, but I also think they're kind of woo, I'm wearing a chain link belt. So,
Yes, it's my drawer.
Is that just me, or? Again, in the same way that layering necklaces, I think, makes them more approachable, I actually think that layering belts in the way that I did the two in the previous slide makes it somehow more approachable. You could also wear your chain link belt as a necklace, and all you would do is have it hang around your neck, and then sort of loop it once, and now it's a necklace. So hopefully it can offer more use than just sitting in your belt drawer. And some of my favorite places to find accessories are not at big box stores or, you know, your standard shops where everyone shops. I think the best place to find accessories are the Salvation Army, a second-hand store, maybe a friend who's going through their closet and you get first dibs on their stuff.
Or flea market.
Yeah, or flea market, exactly.
Club flea market.
Yes. And Treasure Mart has great stuff, but I think their stuff is really expensive. But used accessories, really there's nothing holding us back from finding new ways to wear them. So this one is actually from my first book, 50 Ways to Wear a Scarf. And this one, it is dear to my heart because it's one of the first things that I ever did well before I ever even had a book or knew that I was going to write a book. This was an idea that just came to me when I was messing around in front of my mirror before I got dressed once. And so I have a nice clutch. I think having a clutch with a handle is probably best for this, but it's not completely necessary. And now a silk scarf works well here. I think a square scarf is probably the best, and I'm going to fold it on the diagonal so that it creates a triangle. And now, taking the long side of this, I'm going to bring it around the back like this, and then bring it towards the front. This is kind of easier laying down, but I'm going to do my best. So now I have one corner, and I'm as if I were wrapping a present or a sandwich or an envelope. I'm going to bring one forward like this, tuck it in, and then the next, other side, tuck it in. And then last but not least, the bottom flat comes over. And then I just use a little sandwich clip to secure it in the back, over here, underneath, I guess inside the bag is what I meant to say. And now, I have a completely new handbag, which I can customize according to my outfit. So, oh, the scarf goes with that dress. Instead of wearing it as a scarf, I'm going to put it around as a handbag. So I just love that one. And now, I know that some of you have brought some accessories, some scarves, and I would love to open up the floor to those of you that have questions or would like any more scarf demonstrations specifically on the items that you brought. Would anyone like to start? Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, I come up to you.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So I have this square scarf that I never know what to do.
That's beautiful.
And it has a cute kitty on the corner.
Oh, look at that.
What do I do with this?
This is really cool. I love this color. Okay, so I'm going to show you this actually, looking at the size of this.
Maybe it's better to turn it off. Because we're looking.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just turn it
Yeah,
off.
I'll just, we'll just. Yes.
There we go.
Okay. And we'll never turn it on ever again. Okay, so there are two things that I would like to show you with this one. If you've ever been in the place where you need a wrap or a cover-up on like a hot summer day or you're at the beach, I actually have a scarf that I just use for the beach and the pool that I do this tie with. So here's one example. So it has to be a pretty significantly big scarf. So with the opposite corners, and I'm going to do this along the long edge, I'm going to bring these together and double knot them. And then, so I have one there, and then I'm going to do the other side. This is such a pretty color. Where'd you get that scarf from?
I don't remember. I just like the color and the cat.
Yep. All the best ones. I don't know. It just showed up in my closet one day.
Yeah.
So now I have something, a shape like this. These are going to be your armholes. So I take one side through here,
Who knew?
one side through there.
Oh,
Oh.
Now, yeah, so this is actually, I love wearing my scarf like this on the beach to cover up my shoulders, but obviously you could wear it in a much more elevated setting as well.
That's cute.
And then I'm going to show you one more on this one because this is actually a great size scarf.
But you know, that's a huge.
This tie is from my second book, 50 Ways to Wear Denim. Now what I'm going to do is, that kitty. We probably want the kitty to be featured prominently in this one.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to fold this on the diagonal so that I again create this triangle shape. And you know that really cool tie that French women always seem to wear? Mm-hmm. This is that tie. And you can do it with almost every single size scarf. So I'm going to bring this on the front of my neck so that it hangs down the front. And then bring this back around.
Pretty.
And now I'm going to tie this.
Huh.
And kitty meow.
Awesome.
Oh, that just came to me. Thanks for laughing. But this is such a great scarf. I think you can get a lot out of this one.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you for bringing it. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to go to you next.
Sorry. Okay, Ann, who we just saw, and I sing in the women's chamber chorus. And we have this scarf, and
Okay.
we all do it differently, and we all look really weird. We need advice.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to show you two with this one. The first one actually looks just like the one that I did, but this scarf is a completely different shape, right? So I'm going to take one end of the scarf and let one corner hang in front. And now, there's a couple different ways that you can do this, but I like to take this long end and bring it underneath first and around. And then maybe it might be long enough to do it, you stop here, or you can keep going one more time. So then this time I might go above. And then with this corner that I still have in my hand, I'm going to tie this to the end of the scarf over here. So this is giving the impression that you're wearing a square scarf.
Interesting. And
And
that
then-
would cover up all our neck
Right,
problems.
right. And then all you need, my favorite word here with the scarves is all you need to do is zhuzh it, you know? So you just gotta sort of play with it until it looks how you want it to look. So that one, this one is from my second book, this tie. The one that I showed you is from my first book. Sorry, I got them confused. So that's one. And I actually wear this one a lot because I have a lot of scarves that are this length, you know, sort of just these long oblongs. And they can be limiting, but they also actually can be very full of possibility. So now I'm going to show you, this next one looks like an advanced level scarf tie, but it's actually not. It's called the braid. Oh gosh, yeah. Sometimes it's easier to start this by looking in a mirror, but if you just look at me and mirror me, you can get it. Okay, so I'm going to let it hang evenly from both sides of the neck, and now I'm simply going to loop it once, and I'm going to loop it to the length of which I want the scarf to be. So I would guess probably that we want it a little bit higher up for us in these purposes right now. Okay, has anyone ever made a friendship bracelet? Like done, you know, okay, so the very basic friendship bracelet tie is that you make like a 4 over one side, like that. Okay, so I have a 4 over this. And now this is where it looks complicated, so just watch me do this. I'm going to take this end, and I'm going to bring it up through the one around my neck, and then I'm going to pull it to the side. Yep, you're all doing it perfectly.
Wow.
Okay, now I'm going to let it hang. Now with the other side, again, 4, up, again, same side, same direction, up through the side, around my neck, and then pull to the side. Yep, perfect. And now we're going to keep going. So 4, over, up, under, side. And then as you can see, with a good zhuzh, that it starts to create a braid. And then when you get to the ends, you can tie it. And then, you know, you can put it to the front like that. You can let this go to the side. And if your braid is starting to come down instead of around, it's because you want to braid into the one around your neck, not down, right? So it just takes a couple of times of, yep, yep. Good job. You'll get it. So, and then you just sort of, you know, you want to sort of pull it apart. I love this one for a scarf that has something different from the end to the other side, you know, like an ombre effect or something, because I think it really shows that off well. But if you wore this, I think you would be a complete original. Yeah, but then also, this would look so great, the scarf would look really great with some jewelry, because the shimmer that's happening on it, I think would really bring out some great jewelry. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm a knitter and it's my sim, and I have a whole wardrobe of shawls that I'm never really sure how to wear. And I just finished this piece, and the pattern calls it a scarf.
Oh,
And
okay.
I don't know how to.
Okay, let's see. Wow, this is beautiful. I was a really big knitter myself too, but I'm too obsessive about it, and I gave myself tendinitis, and since it's my drawing hand, I had to stop. But
I mean, maybe it has a back and a front, you know, and a black on an all black outfit.
yeah, so I love the bottom. Okay, I actually think my outfit is perfect for this. Let it drape like this. Take a nice belt.
Oh my! Oh, that's cute. Yeah, that is cute. The shawls I can work with a pin, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think a good solid belt over this, and then it almost looks like you're wearing a vest. Especially because this is so pretty. Yeah, it really shows that off, I think. Actually, this looks really cute with my outfit. Thanks!
You have a lot more flair than I would have work to do that.
But I think even if you didn't want to use a belt with this one, let me just put this back on here. Why not do a traditional tie on this? Do you know how to tie a tie?
I know how to do
A men's tie.
a Girl Scout. Oh no!
I don't know how to do a Girl Scout tie.
Well, the girls right over, left and under, and left over. Right. Girl Scout.
We're not.
Square.
Oh,
It's
it's
a
a
square.
square. Got it. Okay. So for a men's tie,
It's a Windsor knot.
yeah. So you want one side to be longer than the other. And I'm going to wrap the longer side around the shorter side once and bring it back from the same side it came. And now I'm going to bring it forward and up through this hole. Yeah.
Is that in one of
Doesn't
your
it go?
books?
Oh, wait, sorry. I was
behind and then up.
I swear I know what I'm doing. Okay, it goes around one more time.
Is that in one of your books?
Yes, this is in Scarf, how to wear a scarf. So it goes around one more time and then you bring it up through the middle. And then pull it through. And then I think if you are able to, like, you could bring this up, I think that especially on like a cold winter day, bring this up to the top, and then it really shows off the work that you did because it has a nice tie in front, and then it kind of lays flat. I think this is a really nice look with like a blazer or a jacket that has sort of a long elongation around the next of it. This is a really great scarf. And it's very soft too.
Well,
Is
I
it
have-
wool?
Yeah, I haven't worn it yet because I didn't know what to do. Yeah, so thank you.
We'll
Yes.
all be placing orders, Sheila.
I'm sorry I didn't hear.
Placing orders for now.
All right, here we go. Oh, this is pretty too. This is, what is this called? I forget the name. Marble.
Marbleized.
Yeah.
Yeah, marbleized. Simple. This is very cool. I have one of these from my grandma. I actually think that this is, it makes it really simple. I don't think it needs to be too complicated.
Good.
Just in the same way that we did the ring. You could just have this one. I think wearing a scarf like this where it hangs is a very nice elongating look. So if you're wearing horizontal stripes or a dress and you feel like you need something to bring the eye up and down, this is the perfect way to do it by wearing sort of a scarf that just hangs freely. So we'll just bring this.
Is that a scarf pin?
Mhm.
Or it's made.
So I think that is just, it beautifully serves the scarf, you know, it shows it off. Or you could take out one end, leave it like this, and then instead of having them go through the same direction, I can bring this one through and then pin, and it's a cute little thing. I love this scarf too. This is not fair, you guys. Bring your scarves and I get to try them on and give them back. There you go.
Karen has a really long one.
Okay.
Oh, okay. No, go ahead.
It's, I don't want you to spend a lot of time doing it, but that is so awkward to me. Is it a stole or is it a scarf?
It's so beautiful. I mean, the silk is beautiful. I'm touching it to get inspired by it. I actually think that I would wear this scarf pretty simply again. I probably would just wrap it around a couple times. And then I could do what I showed before with your scarf, which is, oh wait, no, this was with your scarf. Yeah. Letting one end hang and using a corner to tie to the other side. Such pretty colors. You're like, oh, show me. And again, a good zhuzh is always key to any good scarf look. So you could wear it so that it has sort of this shape to it, and all I did was just wrap it around my neck and tie it to a corner.
But it looks like you're getting ready to have your hair done. I mean, there's so much stuff.
Too much
around.
stuff there?
Yeah.
Okay,
there is
that
a lot.
I completely understand. This one I call the lazy girl. It's my mom's favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to secure it, you could put a pin here. But I think then this, you still get some of that nice elongating effect. You can still see the scarf, but it's just as simple. And then one more for this one. Fold it in half. And this works for any longer scarf. This would work for your scarf too. Fold it in half. Let one side hang and the other two. And then you're going to take one end, put it through, and then you see how this is under and that's over. I'm going to do the opposite with the other side. So this one is going to go under and then over. And now it's like a knot. So this is, I think, a really great look if you're wearing a jacket over it. You could almost wear this as if it were a blazer. You know, it almost looks like it's a blouse if you were to wear something over it. Yeah, and it's beautiful even with a simple scarf like that because it just shows off the scarf without making it too complicated. And I actually really like how that shows off the little pearls on that scarf.
So
too.
is that in a book too?
Yep, this is in the scarf book. Yeah.
In the first.
The first one.
I guess they're all great scarves, very simple.
Yeah. Yes.
Here you go. Sorry to be
Because I always get the tags hanging out.
So this is a great, this isn't fair. I like this scarves too. Okay, so if, I personally cut off the tags to my scarves, but if you're not going to, then that's completely fine. If you are not going to cut off the tags, you'll just want to use that side as like the knot sort of side. So I'm going to fold this like this. And now I'm going to start from the pointy edge and start to roll it so it makes like a long length scarf like this. Now I'm just going to knot one side like that. Pull this around. Put the other side through the knot.
cute.
Oh, nice.
That is so simple too. And then it's kind of like the shortcut to a square knot. But I guess I still got the tag in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna take them off.
Yeah, just like a gentle, with a seam ripper or something. But then, you know, just super cute.
Is that like a Mayan design?
I know, look, is this? It's really pretty. Any other questions?
Karen has a really long.
I thought this was really pretty, but I can never figure out how to wear it.
Oh, whoa, this fabric is so soft. So I think this would be very well served to the first look that I showed you, which is the kimono, the one where you put it over.
It's got a border.
Yeah, and the kimono is very well served by a very big scarf like this, and the longer and bigger it is, the more dramatic name you're gonna have. Then, because it's so big,
A good table runner.
yeah, it would be a very beautiful table runner. I would love to see this scarf though with the braid. So the one that I showed, like a really big long scarf like this is when you can really see, and I don't want to do this because this is sticking, these are sticking out, so I don't want to ruin this scarf. But your big, long, awkward scarves, that's like a great place to try the braid one. And then to do the kimono with it. And then honestly, what is better than just the easy breezy,
Oh.
There you go.
and then you have a great wrap for the summer. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for bringing your scarves. This is wonderful. So does anyone else have any more questions? So before we wrap up, I have one favor to